Okay, let's begin.
Priyanshi, should we begin?
Yeah, we can start whatever is up to you guys.
Okay, sorry, you can start.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. We hope that you're keeping well in this uncertain time. My name is Saurabh Ramani, and I'm the Technical Deputy Director at the Entrepreneurship and Incubation Cell, and I shall be a host for the webinar. I have with me Parth Shah, the Deputy Director of the Guest Relations, who shall be my co-host for the day. I would like to welcome you all to the second session of the Alumni Lecture series. We have on our board today the founders of Beyond the Degree, Ms.Priyanshi Chokshi and Mr. Anirudh Agarwal. Thank you so much, sir and ma'am, for taking out some of your precious time for this webinar. Before we start, I would like to introduce our esteemed principal, Dr. Pooja Ramchandani, who has been a constant pillar of support and guidance for all of us. Her constant encouragement has always motivated us to push our boundaries and achieve excellence. Due to some last minute commitments, ma'am could not join the webinar. I would also introduce Dr. Naveen Punjabi, who is leading as the Vice Principal at our college and Professor in charge of our ESAL. We all know him as a super enthusiastic, supportive, and enterprising person who always encourages us to give our best, set high benchmarks, and achieve new heights. I would also take this opportunity to introduce Dr. Amit Nandu, who is leading the Alumni Committee of H.R.College. Amit sir is also the Associate Professor in the Department of Accountancy. His regular insights and information regarding the alumnus has led to stay connected and associated with them for future collaboration. Now I would like to request Patsha to take ahead.
To
Go ahead,
start
sir.
with a brief introduction of our speakers, Ms. Priyanshi is a CA by profession and ranked 45th all over India. She is also a member of Chambers of the Senior Counsel, Mr. Janak Dwarkadas, Bombay High Court. She is a national level swimmer and a professional Odissi dancer. Mr. Anirudh is the co-founder at Beyond the Degree. He too is a CA who ranked 4th all over India. He is an associate of the Boston Consultancy Group. He is also a corporate trainer and a professional public speaker. To speak about Beyond the Degree, it is an educational management startup that provides students with one-stop platform with all the know-how and strategies required to move beyond the traditional desk job. It aims to enable the students with required skills and skill set that would empower them to make unconventional career choices and move beyond the degree. I would now like Ms. Priyanshi and Mr. Anirudh to take over and inspire and guide all of us by taking us through your amazing journey of building beyond the degree and how your college learnings help you build this company.
Great. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And firstly, good evening to all the students present here. And thanks a lot for really joining this session. I understand it's a Saturday, and since it's not a working day, most of us would not want to join an educational session. So we have really tried to make it as fun and interactive for you guys as possible. And of course, apart from just sharing our journey towards moving towards a startup, because of the fact that we ourselves come from a professional background and an educational background, and have done our BCom itself at H.R.College, we would also love to take up questions with respect to any questions that you may have with respect to building a startup in general. And of course, we will also elaborate on our own experiences as we go through the entire journey. So we have a presentation that I would like to share with all of you as we speak. Okay. So growing up in India, most of us have always been asked this one particular question, whether it be our friends, whether it be our relatives, or whether it be our family members, that what degree do you have? And we've always been told that, in order to succeed in life, to get a job that gives you stability, you have to obtain a degree and you have to get a professional career. So, well, coming from a commerce background, we're always told that we should either take up a CA or a law, or we should either take up a career in CFA, consulting, actuarial sciences, and there are so many other degree careers when it comes to commerce. But we have one question for every student who's studying at college. And we ourselves were never asked this question while we were students in degree college, which is, that what if you want to do something unconventional? What if you have a breakthrough idea that can really kill the scene and that can really help you nurture your creativity and bring up something extremely innovative? And what if that one unconventional idea is something which is extremely fulfilling, much more than what a job would be? And what if now we tell you that you could also have a degree and at the same time you could do something unconventional and something fulfilling? You know, you're never too young to start an empire and you're never too old to chase a dream. We've always been told that age is just a number. And as students who are studying in degree college, because of the fact that we have so much of educational background, as well as we have so much of educational backings, we always have scope to try something new, to innovate, and to really venture into our own space because of the learnings that we learn through college, as well as the support that we get from college. And this is a very interesting quote that I read this morning only, in fact, which says that when you become the first to break a code, you actually become the reference. And this is exactly what we today want to try to advocate. That you may be pursuing a degree, you may be in degree college, and you may be pursuing various courses. But at the same time, it's never too late to look at something unconventional. It's never too late to go and break stereotypes. And it's never too late to follow a parallel career along with your professional career. These are some of the words that we'd really, really like to stress on, especially when it comes to breaking stereotypes, moving beyond the conventional, growing, disrupting, innovating, and actually taking up multiple careers. So just to give you some reference, we ourselves did our BCom from college. However, we went on to do CA, just like every other commerce student who either opts for CA or CFA. But at the same time, because of the fact that we really wanted to help students your age to really come up with something unconventional and to actually encourage you to move beyond finite, to think different, we really came up with this whole idea of the startup, which was beyond the degree, where we essentially train students to actually take a step the offbeat way. Well, that is also what our tagline reads. And we help you really break into the creative space to start up and to really come up with innovative ideas and really take that forward as you move ahead with any degree that you may have. But before we get into the entire startup aspect and we look at how we really went about the whole startup process, especially for young students who really want to get into entrepreneurship, well, let's just have a look at some of the conventional versus the non-conventional career profiles that all of us know about. Well, moving to the conventional career profiles, this is, of course, as a commerce student, or specifically as a CA/CFA, we always have very, very limited options, which is we either want to get into finance or we want to get into the typical tax or audit, or some people like me, I'm pursuing a career in law. And you want to take up an LLB, or you want to take up a career in law, or you simply get into either the industry or management consulting. However, these are very basic conventional career options. And no matter what degree you really pursue, whether you take up a BMS or a BAF or a BFM, or whether you even take up a professional course, you know that you will land up taking up a conventional career course. But what if we really tell you that, you know, along with your conventional career course, what if you can actually also start up and come up with your own company? Now, you know, times are changing and times are moving forward. And I like to relate to this quote when it reads as, you can't stay in a BlackBerry mindset and then become an Apple. Essentially trying to say that you can't innovate and you can't bring about new things if you're going to stick to the conventional career options. And if you're really going to stick to the conventional education, that I will finish degree college, I will go abroad, I will do my master's, and then I will simply get a job in an esteemed firm. No, that's not what we're looking at. We're all called the Gen Z batch, we're called the millennials. And the idea is that we really want to disrupt. And which is the reason why we ideally should look at starting up with the various ideas that we may have. Now, some people may have ideas when it comes to finance. Some people may have ideas when it comes to education, or you may have varied interests. For example, it could be photography, sports, or it could even be fintech, technology, or for all you boys, you may also want to start up and form your own fantasy leagues and actually earn additional revenue through those. So these are different aspects that you can really break through in and that you can really start up with. For example, because of the fact that we came from a highly professional background, because of the CA, CFA plus law background that we come from, we decided to use that particular knowledge, not just to pursue a conventional job, but at the same time really give back to students at your level, in order to really encourage them to also, with the idea that you can manage multiple careers and really take up parallel career options. So today we're going to be talking all about startups. And of course, if any of your students right here, you all have any questions with respect to starting up, most of us like to be our own bosses and most of us like to be entrepreneurs. So irrespective of what idea you may have and you want to give it a shot, it's never too late and it's never too early. And we really want to help you navigate your way through this entire startup process. So we're right here, we're going to help you with all the terms that you see in this particular chart, whether it be funding for startups, whether it be ideation of startups or planning of startups, and how you can really connect and build with people in order to take your startup to the next level. So please do put in your questions in the question box, and we will also try to take up a lot of questions that you may have, any ideas that you may have with respect to startups, anything and everything in the field of commerce, finance, consulting, law. We would love to help you and take up your questions. So when we talk about startups, the first real question that comes to our head is, who exactly is an entrepreneur and what exactly is a startup? We've always been told that starting up means just venturing into your own business. And for some people, it's more like the idea of freedom, that you're going to be your own boss. But well, starting up or actually being an entrepreneur is not limited to that. Because as an entrepreneur, you know that apart from the conventional career option of actually pursuing a job and just doing a mundane 9-to-5 work, you want to create change. And that is where entrepreneurship comes into picture. Entrepreneurship is about creating change and not just about creating companies. Creating change with your ideas and with your purpose, no matter how small or big they may be. Well, this is what another industry leader has to say. Well, for some, what differentiates an entrepreneur from a regular individual is the ability to face failure, the ability to manage failure, and the ability to even rise up from failures. So basically, you take failures in your stride and you really actually use those failures as learnings to further build on your startup as you move ahead. And for some people, entrepreneurship is just about doing something super exciting. Entrepreneurship could just be about your passion project. For example, I'm a lot into sports, and I would love to venture into sports or take up a career in sports along with my career in CA. And that's exactly what entrepreneurship would mean for me. It's something that would excite me and actually turn my interest into capital, because I could get that additional revenue from what I'm really taking up and from the interest that I'm actually pursuing. And of course, just to break your myth, well, whatever we've heard about entrepreneurship in terms of actually being an entrepreneur and being a businessman who knows the who and who of business as well as of different professions, well, it's a myth that we would like to break, because you, me, and everyone who's listening to this session, in fact, is an entrepreneur. Because today we all have ideas. We all want to innovate. We all want to create something because we all want to fulfill a purpose. It could be something as simple as influencing, or something as simple as even blogging or creating content on Instagram. But we all do want to do it. And entrepreneurship isn't magic. It's no sort of a mystery. All of us are born entrepreneurs. We just have to harness that skill that we really have and take it forward as we go ahead. And in the end, your work, or it could be the multiple careers that you do along with your professional degree, they're going to form a large part of your life. And the only way you can really be a good entrepreneur, and the only way you can really have a good startup, is to love what you do. For example, today at college, in fact, a lot of students are a part of various committees. You may be a part of the sports council, or you may be a part of the e-cell. Like today, they're organizing wonderful events. And even as a part of these various organizations, you're still entrepreneurs because you're creating something and you're generating something every single year or every single week. So that's exactly how simple entrepreneurship is. And it can start at a really basic level of joining a committee at college, learning the skills, and actually turning your interest into a profession as you go ahead in your professional careers.
So, Anirudh, so I guess you're on mute.
Better now?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So sorry about that. I think Priyanshi, thank you for the wonderful introduction to what entrepreneurship and starting up is all about in a more general sense. I think what we'd love to do now is take you through what it really takes to create something from scratch and build it out, right, over a period of time. And that is what we'll look to do over the next few minutes, and give away some of the important things that all of us should keep in mind before we actually take that plunge, make our ideas real. So I think let's start with the first thing and the 3P principle that both Priyanshi and I followed before we started with Beyond the Degree, right? And those 3Ps are passion, purpose, and profits. The three most important principles that you should look at before you enter a business. Why passion, right? So entrepreneurship is something, or starting up is something that is going to take away everything. Like you would see on the page, there's no work-life balance. Work is going to be equal to your life over a period of time, at least when you start up initially. So that passion, just the will, the courage, the motivation to keep going over a period of time, that has to be there. There has to be a predefined purpose for which you want to start up. So our purpose was very clear. It was to help students get the unconventional opportunities that we couldn't get. Just get them that bridge to take them across that and fulfill all their dreams and aspirations that they want to. And obviously the final one, nothing in this world comes free. There are no free lunches. At the end of the day, everybody is here to make profits and make money. But that is not the first thing. The first thing is, if you have the passion and the right purpose, money will follow. It's like if you're excellent, success will follow. The second thing, you need to be unconventional and right. Now, this is a very, very important statement. What we mean by that is, do not do things that are conventional, because that every person in life will do, right? And then you'll just live a normal life. But if you do something unconventional, which turns out right, boy, the opportunity is huge. Now, to make this happen, what do you really need? You need a passionate partner and a great team. So with Priyanshi, I think I've been really lucky to find someone who's as passionate as me about, education, training students, bringing them to the level that, you would really love to see the economy and the country grow along with us, and a great team, because there is no one-man army. It always takes a team to make a great thing come true. The next point, I think the most important, being okay with failure and the ability to bear looking like a fool. In today's day and age of social media, I think all of us have lost track of what failure is, right? We cannot comprehend it. So even if we go into something that has the remotest chance of failure, there is that voice at the back of the head that is holding us back. But what if I fail? What if I look like a fool? I'm saying forget all that. Think about what if you succeed? That has to be the thing that has to drive you. Of course, what you really need along with that is going to be a great support team in terms of your family and friends who are there to back you no matter what. No matter how your business succeeds, whether it fares well, it doesn't, they are there, they are your backbone. And that is what will keep you sane and going through that journey. The last question is the most interesting one in my view. Do you need a lot of money? Do you need a lot of capital to build out a business? I don't think so. And we'll cover that as we go ahead. How you can bootstrap your own startup with a very, very limited amount of money, as good as some internship that you're doing. With that 5 or 10,000 rupees, you can build a great startup. And we'll look into that as well as we go ahead. Finally, ending with an interesting quote. An entrepreneur likes to bite more than he can chew, hoping that he'll learn how to chew it in real time. So you try and do something that is great in real time. Your mind and your body and everything will adjust to it. if you're really passionate and you have the right purpose in mind. Now we come to a very, very interesting framework, right? A lot of us today are going to be very skeptical when we are making a decision. What if it goes wrong? How do I decide this? We'll have our friends, our colleagues, our family members calling us and asking us for advice always. Should I make this decision or not? What we followed was a very simple framework advocated by the founder of Amazon, Jeff Bezos. He calls it the regret minimization framework. What do we mean by that? It's simple. When you are 80 years old, just think you have to make a decision today. Now imagine you're very confused, right? Because there are so many things crowding that decision. What if it goes wrong? What if it goes right? What will that other person think? What will my family think? All of those things. I'm saying forget all that. Just keep one statement in your mind. When you are 80 years old, will you regret doing this or not? Now, if the answer is yes, if you regret not doing something like this, just go ahead and do it. That is what Jeff Bezos did with Amazon. He decided he was in a plush hedge fund job at that time, okay, earning $1 million a year. He could have retired comfortably, peacefully, done great. He thought there was an opportunity to build out an e-commerce platform, but it was completely new at that time. Nobody believed him in, nobody knew what he was going to do. But what he realized is, okay, when I'm 80 years old, I will regret not building the business. I will regret not taking this opportunity. And he did it. Today, Amazon is a $1.5 trillion company, one of the most valuable companies in the world. Like Elon Musk says, when something is important enough, you do it, even if the odds are not in your favor. So I believe for any decision, not just for starting up, use this framework. It will help you in great stead. This is the exact same framework that Priyanshi and I use. People told us, you guys are too young. Why are you doing this right now? There will always be time in the future. But we said, no, we will always regret not starting up at this time. When we have the opportunity, when we see the market, when we see that there are so many people who are so passionate, but are not able to get the right tools to get to where they want to be. If we can just help provide them that, I don't think there are going to be any regrets. Whether we fail or we succeed is immaterial. Even if we can make a difference to the life of one student, I think all the efforts would have been worth it. So now, how do you take a startup from 0 to 1, right? And this is the framework for a lean startup approach that we actually used. Now it's simple. We had an idea. Okay, we built on it. We built what? Nothing. A simple Instagram page, a simple LinkedIn page. We brought together a few people to help us with it, and we coded that startup into existence. Now, if you go to the page of Beyond the Degree on Instagram or LinkedIn, what you will see are two simple things that we wanted to bring to you. Number one, some brilliant content, some inspirational content of people who have been there, done that. Number two, a great mentorship program. So we have a set of 10 people who we brought together, our friends and our colleagues from our networks, who have done it, who have followed the unconventional path, and who we believe will help any student get to their dreams and make them into reality. We coded that into existence. Now what we're doing, we're measuring the data. Okay, what do people like about this? What do people not like about this? And daily we are iterating on that. We're thinking about what we need to do same, what we need to improve on, what we need to do differently. As we incorporate those learnings, bring in new ideas, take in the customer feedback, and keep building, that becomes a virtuous cycle that we can keep following as a playbook and improving as we go ahead, which is what we believe can be the framework for any startup with a very limited amount of capital, and just using our networks and our friends can build something like this into existence. Perfect. So on the next point on the do's and don'ts of a startup, what do we need to do? One, differentiate or die. Number two, create an extraordinary experience. Don't focus on the money first, like I said. Just create that extraordinary experience, satisfy even one person, it is worth it. The word of mouth alone will ensure that you will get all the people that you need in the future. And obviously, above all, know when something is genuine or you're just going through the motions. Are you starting up for starting up's sake because it's cool and you see all these founders appearing in, the Economic Times or Mint every day, and it seems to be the supposedly cool thing to do? I don't think that's recommended. Just believe whatever you are most passionate about. What if tomorrow money was no object? You had everything free. Is there still something that you would love to do every day just because that is what you can do and that is what you want to do every day? That, I think that is what is most important.
Yes, and in fact, there's actually one point that I really want to add out here, which is with respect to creating extraordinary experiences. So when we started a startup, we just came up with a simple education startup. And it's not that there are no other people who've really ventured into the whole startup arena or the ed tech arena or the online education arena. However, when we speak of this extraordinary experience that we want to create, it essentially comes back from our purpose. Like, what is our purpose that will help us differentiate from other companies or other startups that are already in the education space? And what is it about our mentorship program that will really help students to actually come to us and to not probably opt for other mentorship programs? So that depends upon the extraordinary experience that we create. You're not just selling an idea, a product, or a service. You're actually selling a purpose. That we are coming and telling you at Beyond the Degree that, hey, we really want to sell the idea of encouraging people to take up unconventional careers. And if one student does it today, 5 others will follow tomorrow, and 5 others will come and do the same thing because of the fact that they have seen one individual really take up an unconventional career and actually do really well with it. And that, this entire aspect of creating an extraordinary experience brings me to the concept of UBP. So, all of us have heard of USP, which is unique selling product. So basically you focus on, on your unique, what's unique to you, and you essentially go and sell it. However, when we look at your UBP, it essentially means your unique bragging purpose. So because we're all the millennials, like I love to call ourselves and our generation, the generation of the millennials, we always look at something that's cool, something that's interesting, that actually makes you feel good and actually gives you that leeway to go and brag about your startup. That, hey, I created this unique idea and I created this unique purpose, and I'm going to brag about it now because I want people to also brag about it. And I want people to go and share the same within their networks. So let me just give you an example. There was a shoe company which I read about, which is called Tom's Shoes. And essentially, Tom's Shoes is, what do they really do? They sell shoes, just like any other shoe brand. But now the reason why their shoes are priced slightly above, other competitors is because they have a purpose behind selling those shoes. So they also sell those shoes, but when you pick a particular pair, you're actually paying an additional price because a second pair, which is a second similar pair, actually goes to someone in Africa for free. So that's really their business model, and that gives them that UBP, the unique bragging purpose, or the whole feel good factor, that because I'm actually paying an additional amount, but I'm also helping someone in another country who cannot afford to buy shoes of such a level. I'm actually doing something unique and creating a unique business model. So that's how you try to differentiate yourself. You don't have to create a unique product or your own product, but even if you sell your a similar product but with a unique purpose, that will also come and help differentiate you from the others in the market. So this is with respect to the do's and don'ts of a startup, and of course, Anirudh can also add in here, because these are several factors that we also had to consider when really moving into our own startup. Which is the first thing that we were always told was, initially when you start off, just like any other student, you always have the aspect of money in mind, that I do want to make a huge amount of money through the startup and I want to monetize. And I don't just want this to be like an NGO. But, the important thing right here is that you have to stop focusing on actually selling, but you have to focus on sharing. So you share one thing with another individual, you actually make people buy it. So it's not that you're selling it, but you're ensuring that people come and buy it. And then through word of mouth, they encourage other people to buy your idea and to buy your purpose. So essentially you're sharing, you're collaborating, you're building networks rather than just selling your product, service, or your idea. And now the second thing is, you have to keep it simple. So even when we started off initially, we thought that, how should we make our education startup different from the other startups and make it extremely unique. And we thought of complex business structures, but then we realized that we ourselves were getting lost while we navigated through those different structures. So I think, the basic thing to remember with respect to a startup is it has to be very, very simple. Like your audience has to relate to it, and your audience doesn't have to get lost within your startup. They should be easily able to navigate through the startup and actually relate to the idea or the purpose or the product that you're really sharing. So stop using fancy titles or stop thinking of really glamorous titles. Keep it as simple as beyond the degree. Like our title itself really speaks of our purpose. That is, we want to encourage people to go beyond the degree. And that's the same way with a lot of other brands. Your title should speak for you and your purpose in a very, very simple way. And the last point here is you have to be practical about your goals. You have to be very, very realistic about your goals. And at the same time, don't settle for less. So of course, don't be too extremes. Don't be someone who's extremely optimistic about the startup and thinks of probably getting a turnover in lakhs or in crores in the first year. Of course, all of us would love to live that kind of a luxury life. But when it comes to startups, well, it isn't all that easy to really build that quick, especially in a short span of time. And at the same time, don't be very, very under optimistic about your goals and set very short-term goals for yourself. That, okay, as long as, we're able to reach out to like 5 students, we're good. No, that's you're settling for less. When you know that you can really do better than that, of course, look at a sort of midway. Try to be very, very realistic and practical about all the goals that you're trying to set. In fact, I'd like to tell you that we at Beyond the Degree, in fact, we never chalked out such a long-term plan for ourselves in terms of saying that, 10 years down the line, we should have so much capital, or 10 years down the line, we should have reached out to about at least like 10,000 or 20,000 students. No, we just chalked out a very simple plan for ourselves that we want to run corporate trainings, we want to educate people, we want to run sessions, and we want to run mentorship programs. And of course, if people are happy, then we do want to grow and we do want to build on our own capabilities and move forward.
Yeah. So Priyanshi, that reminds me of a very interesting principle that I had read about. The second point, it's called the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. That's it, right? That principle will always hold anybody in great stead. Just don't make things too complex. Keep them very simple. That KISS principle is a great acronym to remember. And the second point, obviously, you have to balance out, like Priyanshi was saying, be practical, be a realist and a rationalist. Don't be an optimist or a pessimist. That's what will help you being a great entrepreneur.
Right. So this comes to the most important part. In fact, ever since we also started our startup, we would always ask questions with respect to what really are the skills required to really start up. And like we said, everything is really simple when it comes to a startup, apart from the fact that once you start up, you really realize that it's not as simple as you think it is. But there are varied skills that you should essentially have. I'm not saying that you should be like wonderful at networking or you should be wonderful at communication, but you should at least have a basic understanding of the various skills that are required, because without that, you will not be able to do well with your startup. So let me just run you through the different skills that are required. So first is strategic planning and execution. Planning is very, very important. In fact, I'd like to share one experience that Anirudh and me had. We were very optimistic about starting our startup, and we thought that we would be able to plan everything in a span of 2 weeks. So we set ourselves a deadline of 2 weeks, and we thought that, okay, we're going to come up with this startup in 2 weeks, and we started work. And we realized that, even 2 months after we started planning, we were yet not ready to launch the startup. So, planning your startup requires you. I'm not saying that you need to prepare a 10-year plan or a 20, 30-year plan for yourself, but you need to have at least a long-term goal as to where you want to take the startup. For example, we at Beyond the Degree want to take our startup to schools, colleges, and reach out to a number of students and student bodies, probably at a national, pan-India level across the country. And we know our goal, but of course it did take a lot of planning, a lot of strategy with respect to how to go about it, the kind of people that we want to hire, and the kind of team that we want to build. The other thing that as an entrepreneur you really need to focus on is networking and interpersonal skills. So you don't have to be extremely intellectual. You may probably be a person who loves to bluff their way through things, but if you can do it well, if you can network well with people and you can connect well with people, then you will be able to sell your idea to them, and you will be able to convince them that, hey, you should come to our startup because we have the confidence that we will be able to do well. So networking and communication skills are very, very important, much more than your intellectual skills. And well, I think if I said this in the presence of any of the teachers at college, I believe, I'm sure they wouldn't like me to say that. But of course, interpersonal skills are very, very important. You have to learn to connect with different people, because when you have good interpersonal and communication skills, that's when you can manage people, and that's when you can even sell and market your product or your idea. So basically all your marketing essentially comes down to how well you can communicate and network. And of course your marketing now does involve a huge chunk of social media marketing as well. And most of us love to spend our days on social media. So of course social media marketing is something that comes inherently to us. And I don't think I need to explain what social media marketing skills that are required are extremely important. And there's one thing that I need to focus on, which is self-branding. You may think that I'll just come up with a random name for my startup, and I'll take things as we go ahead. No, your name and your tagline are the most important. Like, you have to learn to really build your brand in such a way that your name itself reveals your purpose. So as soon as people see the name either Beyond the Degree or see the name Apple, they should get an idea of what they are looking at, and then come to your brand. So self-branding is something which is key, and which you have to look at even before really starting up, and even before really building on your idea. And of course, the last thing that you also need is your basic analytical skills. You need to know how to solve problems, especially as an entrepreneur. You're going to be the one leading the organization. So you have to be able to bridge the gap between where your organization is and what your future goal is. And of course, financial skills are very important, because you may not realize that when you start up, because you may start up with a low capital. But if you don't know how to raise capital or how to go about with money, then that's definitely a lose-lose for you. In fact, I'll tell you how even Anirudh's and my synergies match. So I like to do a lot of the talking, and I'm zero when it comes to financial skills, because I myself, as a founder, I yet don't know how to go about pitching to investors, or how to go about with the finances of the firm. So well, we were lucky to find partners where our synergies matched, because that is also very important. You need to find partners in such a way that your synergies match. So if one partner is good at one skill, the other partner complements and is good at another skill. But of course, as a founder, or as a person venturing on their own without a partner also, it's very important to really know all of these skills. And then there are certain additional skills that are required to even sustain and grow. So of course, it's a little early for us also to elaborate on how to sustain and grow, because we're also just a month old when it comes to our startup. And I spoke about the basic skills that you really need to start off. But even over a span of 3 weeks, we have realized that it is extremely, extremely difficult to grow. One is because we're living in a COVID world where everything is online, and so many people are coming up with their own content, coming up with their own pages, that it's very important for us to create a youth-centric, exciting, unique content that differentiates us from the others. It's very important for us to hire the right people, because a lot of people don't have jobs right now, and everyone wants to try to work everywhere. So it's very important to catch those right people who can actually help our startup grow. And we had to focus a lot on diversification. Initially, we had like a 3-pronged approach, where we were like, we'll do 1, 2, and 3, and that's it. That's what we're going to start with. But as we went ahead, we realized that, the three things that we want to do are just not enough, because trends, everything that you see changes every day, and you have to adapt to that change, and you'll have to tweak your business plans. You'll have to test, you'll have to try, and you'll have to revamp your business plans eventually in accordance with how the market is moving and what students really want from you and what students are really responding to. So this is how you really grow. And of course, you also grow via people, by word of mouth, especially when you're into services, because it's essentially your service that is going to speak much more than your product ideally would. So just a summary of everything that I spoke of above. It's very important to be patient. Your startup cannot grow in a short span of time. You cannot expect your startup to build in a span of 1 year. You will have to wait for a minimum period of 2 to 3 years at least. You need to perform continuously. So basically, you need to be very, very consistent with your performance and perform the same time and again. And like Anirudh mentioned earlier, you have to be very, very passionate about whatever you do. So when you take up a particular thing, everyone always tells you that put your heart into it, otherwise you will not be able to do it well. But we ourselves don't follow it much, because we'll end up opting for mundane jobs where we have to sit 9 to 5, and then we constantly complain about those jobs and about the fact that our job is extremely monotonous, dry, and is not working well. Which is why you have to be passionate about what you take up. And this is very relevant what Steve Jobs says. He says that what differentiates a good entrepreneur from a successful entrepreneur really is perseverance. You have to work hard, and it's very, very cliche, but you do have to work hard. We as professionals decided to start off. We thought that we would dedicate our weekdays to our job, and we would dedicate our weekends to the startup. And suddenly we don't realize where to draw the line between office and work hours, and where to really draw the line between weekdays and weekends, because it does require that 24/7 work and constantly being on the go. So that was with respect to the various skills that are required. And this was, I just prepared a separate slide because I wanted to talk about people management skills when it comes to a startup. Of course, like I mentioned, Anirudh and me, both of us really were able to find each other because our synergies matched, which is the reason why we were able to complement our energies. But it's very important because not everyone may be lucky to find the right co-founder, or not everyone may be lucky to find a good team. So when you really start off, you first have to be a very, very good leader. Even when you're a part of different committees, like I see, there's a technical head and there's a guest relations head. And there were various people who were in contact with us, even for this webinar to really happen. So everything is about building a team. Everything is about actually teamwork. So in the end, you may be two people, one person who starts off. But as you grow, you realize that to really go ahead, you're going to need people, and you're going to need people to work together. And especially because at college, they give you the leeway to be a part of so many committees. I do believe that a lot of students would be able to understand the importance of teamwork and division of work and responsibility when it really comes to people management and leadership.
So thanks, Priyanshi, for that. I think that there's $1 million question, right, in the mind of most entrepreneurs, and most entrepreneurs or wannapreneurs would want to be in this position where they want to think about, should I raise capital or not? And most people, 9 out of 10 will tell you, yeah, of course. I mean, tomorrow, if you raise a great round, your name is going to be in the newspapers tomorrow, right? You're going to be treated as a celebrity. People are actually going to start understanding, okay, what you do, people are putting in money, you feel great. But should you raise or not? That is an important question, I think. Let's not just get into the vanity part of it. Let's think about it in a very sane way. And I think this is a critical decision that any founder will need to make. So there are 3 or 4 points that we really wanted to point out as we think about this decision, right? What are the pros of this? Number one, when you get that capital, in a lot of startups or in a lot of businesses, there will be leeway for growth. What we mean by that is you can acquire a lot more customers just by paying for them or paying money. As Priyanshi was talking about social media marketing right now. Now, number one is an organic marketing approach where you try to spread it through providing a extraordinary experience for your consumers or for the people that you're reaching out to. Number two is just paying money and getting people on board. So that is something, if you want to be like that, of course, capital can help you and raising money can help you. And the second thing is you enjoy a cult status, you become hero-like, your name will appear across everywhere, people will start, recognizing you and things like that. However, there are certain cons to this approach. What are they? You become, in a sense, beholden to others. A lot of entrepreneurs, the reason they start out is, I do not want anyone to be my boss. However, when you end up raising capital, especially from large investors, what you have is inherently a boss or a board of directors that is going to look over every small decision that you make in the future. Number two is that if you raise too much money, there's going to be a problem of plenty for you. What are you going to do with that? Most likely what we've seen is people end up squandering that money across the board if you do not have a coherent plan in place before you raise that money. However, let's say you are one of those who believes that they can deal with the cons and still raise money and make it sustainable growth for your company. So which are the sources that we believe you should tap? And I've put them in the order that you should ideally look at them. Number one is, I believe, first, let's look at the family and friends option. Do not go in for those so-called strategic and financial investors first, or the private equity players. Just go in for your family and friends. They are the ones who love you the most. They are the ones who trust you the most. And they are the ones who will not interfere so much in the working of your business. So that is best. Number two is look at the industry network and colleagues that you will have. So these are like your second home and second family, right? So look at them. Only after that, if required, if you find the partner with the right fit, or you are running out of money, or you see that there is this massive opportunity that you will not be able to tap with your own money or with your family and friends, is when you should look to actually raise money externally. So this is something that Priyanshi and I have also thought about while building beyond the degree. So though right now we are completely bootstrapped, we are running it from our own money and our own savings, and we are working hard over the course of the week to actually generate that capital so that we can spend and invest some money in beyond the degree. We will definitely keep all of these points in mind if we ever decide to take in money from outside. The second point, I think most of us here, or almost all of us on this call, are going to be professionals having some or the other degrees, right? So what should you do? You should leverage your degree. That is what the power of what we believe in. Though you may follow an unconventional path, you can use that power and the learnings that you've obtained while studying for your degree to follow that unconventional path. So be true to your core skills, right? Like we were discussing, some of us have a certain skill set that we're really good at. So if Priyanshi, for example, is really good at public speaking, communicating, and marketing, I may be really good at financial and analytical skills and just overall the strategic view of a business, right? So all of us should be very true to our core skills and follow that and leverage them. Wherever you have any gaps, use constructive collaborations, collaborate with other people, network with other people. Just use both of your skills so that it becomes very complementary. Find the right partner and the right other collaborations that you can use. Use your network for this. Always, always, always test using beta customers. Do not go live with everything with everyone. Test it on a small group, iterate, improve, seek constructive feedback and criticism. One thing as entrepreneurs we have to be ready for is a constant barrage of criticism on every decision that you take, right? And that hurts a lot of times because it comes from your closest friends, your family, or your network whom you truly respect, and it really hurts really bad. But that is the best thing that you're going to get. Seek that out actively from people. Always think about what you should do to improve. Always think about what you're doing wrong and what can be done better. So,
and just on a lighter note to add there, if you're not able to find people, then just rope in some of your closest friends and just use them as guinea pigs for your startup. Trust me, it really works. We did the same. We just brought in a few really close friends and we ran the idea through them, and that's how we really realized whether we were going in the right direction or not. So don't hesitate to use your friends, your close friends as your guinea pigs when starting up.
yeah. So busting some myths on entrepreneurship, right? Number one, is entrepreneurship something that people are born with, or is it a skill that you can really develop? As we've been talking, nobody is a born entrepreneur. Nobody has that natural thing that, okay, as soon as you're born, people will say, nahi, this guy will become a businessman or this guy will become an entrepreneur or whatever. No, it's just something that you develop over the course of a time. It's not only a mindset, but a skill set. So you have it in your mind that, okay, I have this brilliant idea. These are the few set of things that we need to do, and all the skill sets that Priyanshi explained beautifully a while back. Develop whatever you need, find the right set of partners, and then go for it. There is no rocket science involved over here. And I say rocket science because we're all commerce students, but nothing of the sort here. It's very simple. You can do it. Anybody can do it. You just need to have that will, passion, and purpose to go ahead. Number two, startups are a big risk and are very likely to fail. So the biggest risk, actually, as Mark Zuckerberg said, is not taking any risk. In a world that is constantly changing, the strategy that is doomed to fail or guaranteed to fail is not taking risks. In today's world, when all of us read about artificial intelligence and robots being able to do most of the jobs, say 20 years down the line, if we are not able to improve ourselves and build those skill sets and actually take the risk and start up, we may end up bigger losers in the future than we imagine right now. That safe job will suddenly not be safe anymore a few years down the line. The third one, I have to quit my job. So as Kevin Systrom said, who is the founder and CEO, was the CEO of Instagram, you don't need to quit your job on day one. There is always small progress that you can make, build it beautifully over a period of time, have that side income to support you and keep you invested in your startup. And only then, once you see that proof of concept in the market, you can actually quit your job. You don't need to do it full time. You can do it part time, but you can build it out.
Yes, and in fact, there's one point to add right here is that when it comes to quitting your job, there are two aspects that are really to be considered. One is that we would like to use our own examples to tell each one of you that because of the fact that we're CAs and Anirudh is into management consulting and I'm into the legal profession, we ourselves are running this startup as a parallel career and more as a passion project because we really want to do it. But at the same time, we do want to have that job because we yet don't know what direction our startup will take. But now, as you go ahead and you realize that your startup is growing big time and that now you really need funding and you approach different investors to really give you funding. And when you go and tell those investors that, hey, my startup is just a passion project or a part-time career, then they are not going to give you that finance. So you should understand the line of difference between when your startup has actually started gaining traction and when it's time for you to actually quit your job and to really venture into the startup. Though Anirudh and me have always advocated for the idea of following multiple careers. We're all young. We can try to put in 18 to 20 hours a day. I don't want to advocate for it, but there's always scope for trial and error right now, then 5 or 10 years down the line. So you should be willing to actually manage multiple careers with your startup. But the biggest thing that all of us do when it comes to a startup is all of us just love to procrastinate. So we'll always be like, no, I'll try my idea probably 2 weeks later. I'm a little lazy right now to come up with it. The time is not right. And we have multiple excuses when it comes to procrastination. But like the co-founder of Instagram says, Instagram, because it's one of our favorite social media apps that we really use today, that if you've got an idea, start today. And also you never know who may come up with a similar idea 2 weeks down the line and your idea would actually be redundant, in fact. But we've spoken so much of ideas. But there's one really big myth that I would like to break. And this is something that even Dhirubhai Ambani said when he was starting out. That while, your idea is important, your idea is not the most important thing. Your purpose is. You may have a unique or a different idea, but you don't have to focus so much on being innovative with your idea that you forget your direction or that you forget the purpose that you're heading in. Like the co-founder of Behance and the chief design officer of Apple say that it's not about making ideas, but it's about making those things actually happen. And it's about making your ideas better rather than making your ideas different. So your ideas have to reflect your purpose, and no sort of idea is big or small. If Google really teaches you something, that is that even small ideas can be big. In fact, if you read about majority of the startups, majority of them have really started in one small garage. For example, Nike started in a garage, and the CEO of Nike, in fact, he was also a CPA in the US, and he used to manage selling shoes along with his CPA career. So I think the example of the CEO and the founder of Nike is probably the most relevant right here, because he himself pursued a professional degree, but at the same time, he also probably worked towards selling shoes and built one of the greatest, sports brands in the country today. So those are just different myths that we really wanted to focus on about startups. Of course, we're all humans in the end. You're not a perfectionist. And initially, it's all about trial and error, like I keep talking about it. That you cannot go with the thought that you can't afford to make mistakes, because as a startup, it's never a win-win situation, because there'll be some areas where you'll win, and there'll be some days where you'll even lose. But if you don't really make mistakes, then you're not even trying and you're not even learning. And of course, that startups are not just about making money. A lot of startups are about bringing about change and actually creating a unique idea that could help change the mindset of people, or that could help educate people, or that could help really bring about different ideas. For example, at Beyond the Degree ourselves also, our startup isn't about monetizing or making money. Of course, I won't lie and say that we're not looking at monetizing at all. But at the same time, we do want to create change, and we want to change the mindsets of students with respect to your conventional versus your non-conventional jobs, and actually running parallel careers. And we have some learnings from Beyond the Degree as well, if Anirudh can take that up.
So there are a few points that we really wanted to point out. As we've been speaking, we've been learning from the experiences of different people who've gone ahead and done it right before us. But over the short span of time that we've been speaking about, there are a few things that we've really learned. And the last one is the most important one in my view, which I will speak about now. Vulnerability as a virtue. What do you mean by this? Now today, all of us want to have that chest out, and we want to be all leader and bossy and stuff like that. We want to see that we are the head of the world, but that's not going to sell today. What's really going to be touch people's hearts is if you're going to be true and vulnerable about both the positives, the negatives, the reality of what it is. If an entrepreneur is also human, right? At the end of the day, we do have feelings, we do feel, we think, we are normal, we like everybody else today. So if you're just true with your audience, with your customers, with your employees, that is what will really help you the most. The second one, obviously, you cannot be a one-man army. Ideally, we would recommend that whoever looks to start up, see if you can find that right partner with the complementary and synergistic skill set, that both of you coming together make a great team. Also, we've been in India, we have this thing of glamorizing Sangharsh a lot, right? What do you mean by Sangharsh? As Priyanshi was saying, obviously, there are a lot of people who will work that 18-20 hours a day, and it works for a period. What you also need to do alongside working hard is thinking hard. Now, we do not set aside, most of us do not set aside time to just sit and think. We always want to be on something, whether we're on social media or where, if we have some free time on a Sunday, we'll just sit and watch Netflix. What I would recommend, just take an hour or two, just sit, zoom out and think about your goals. What will you do to achieve them? That, trust me, is going to be the most productive time of the week for you. That is another learning that we've had while we've been at BTD. So do you push and you work hard, you also take the time to zoom out and reflect from time to time, just to see that you're going on the right path and you're not caught up always in the day-to-day details and operations and so on. So I think I'll cover a few of these points. What is the dark underbelly, right? What are the true cons of entrepreneurship if somebody is really looking to take this up and looking to create a startup? I think Elon Musk said it best. Entrepreneurship is like eating glass and walking on hot coals at the same time. I believe he had also added it's like eating glass and looking into the abyss of death. And why does he say that, right? I think there is a lot of mental anguish, unrelenting stress that comes with entrepreneurship. Obviously, you're going to be a leader. You're going to be responsible for the lives and livelihoods of people when you eventually scale it up. You're always going to think about your customers. Are you satisfying them enough? What are you giving them? there are going to be 10 things that are going to be keeping you up at night, right? However, the most interesting thing for me, it's an emotional roller coaster. So now just step back and imagine what is the most tremendous high you've had, right? In your life, there may be some great achievements that you would have done, which would have given you a high. Of course, sometimes we fail and there will be terrible lows. In the life of an entrepreneur, these highs and lows will be a daily recurrence. In the morning, you may have a tremendous high. Wow. And at night, there will be something that will pull you to a terrible low. So you just need to be that rationalist and realist person to treat, triumph and disaster just the same. If I borrow from one of the poems that we had learned back in school, you have to be able to manage that. And of course, if you do not have a partner, there will be some amount of isolation that you will face. So we would recommend you get a partner. And finally, you should be willing to live in a state of constant paranoia. When you wake up the next day, you should think about what is that didn't put me out of business. So if you can do those things and still remain sane and keep going, you're going to be successful. There is no doubt about that. So you should just make sure that you are aligned before you venture into starting up, that these are some of the dark sides to it. And if you're okay with that, I think we should go ahead with it.
Yes, definitely. And of course, we didn't want to only portray a very rosy picture of startups to you, because at Beyond the Degree as well, we ourselves have, had our highs and lows with respect to days where we're just so cramped up with work that we cannot focus on our startup, and vice versa. And a lot of juggling between different careers, and a lot of fear as well on those lines that, what if our startup works? What if our startup doesn't work? Will students want to come to us, and will students not want to come to us? But of course, everything has its pros and cons. And in the end, we have to see where our real direction lies and what we really want to take up. But since we're also, students from H.R.College, and, since we spoke so much about our startup and startups in general, I just have one little small piece of advice for every student who's also at H.R.College right now, which is, or at any college in fact, which is that lectures and your books, your exams are important, but I think the fact that extracurriculars really help you build a lot of the skills that I spoke about, be it either networking, communication, leadership, a lot of these skills. And the good part about H.R.College for us always was that we were very active in different committees, which is the reason why we were able to pick up and understand how to run an organization, be it as small as a committee, right from the very beginning. And of course, attend different sessions like this, where you actually get to learn from practical experiences of individuals who are actually in the profession. So I think that's one thing that H.R.College always gave us, which is the leeway and the opportunities to really go out and explore and try different things. If we came up with an idea as part of a committee, for example, if today the members of eCell come up with an idea that we want to run this whole webinar series, then the college will never stop you, but in fact give you all the backing that you need. And you as students should really grab that opportunity, because you may not realize today, but 4 or 5 years down the line, you'll definitely realize that these kind of things were extremely important as you went ahead. So I think this was a summary of how to start up, how we went about our startup. And I really hope we were able to give you an insightful presentation on the entire journey of starting up, especially when it comes to the commerce or education space.
Yeah, I feel the students were really interested to attend a session like this, and they have learned a lot from experience. And we do have many questions in the chat box too. So
Indeed, I think it was a great session. And I just wanted to convey that Naveen sir wanted to convey his best wishes to both of you. He really wanted to join in, but he just called me up. He got some last minute emergency regarding his family, so he couldn't be here.
Sure. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you for having us.
yeah, so Jessica, can I go ahead with the question?
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah. So as Anirudh sir answered $1 million question, so we have a $1 trillion question now as to how to strike a balance between work and life. So
that's a very, very relevant question actually, because we ourselves have not been able to figure our heads around that. And trust me, with COVID, it's gotten worse, in fact, because there's, like I said, there's no line of difference between your office hours and your home hours, and there's no difference between your weekdays and your weekends. So of course, I believe in slogging initially, at least, which is why I believe that at least in your initial years, you should be ready to dedicate that 16 to 18 hours of work. I may be overestimating that now, but I think at least initially you should definitely do that. And when you talk of a work-life balance, it essentially means just having a good personal life where you're able to just dedicate some time to yourself and to you as a person. And I feel, like Anirudh rightly said, that when you look at a startup, it's ideally your own baby. So you're not going to look at your startup as work. You're going to look at it as part of your life itself. It's not going to be another job for you that you crib about as you go about doing that job from 9 to 5. So when it comes to a startup, it's all about actually just giving it a lot of your time and actually treating it as part of your life itself, instead of trying to allocate time to your startup and trying to allocate time to your personal life. But of course, I don't want to be misunderstood. I don't want to say that, okay, you should go out, you should meet your friends, you should have a social life. You don't need to compromise on all those things. You should just understand where the difference lies. If in this week I really need to focus on work, you should be able to give in, those 18 to 20 hours. But tomorrow, if you have a light week or you have less work, then you put in a good, 6 to 8 hours in the day, and then you spend the rest of the day actually enjoying, enjoying your life, or either enjoying with your friends or having a good social life. So it really depends on what your work life demands. But of course, initially, I wouldn't recommend, not putting in those extra hours. But
I think one of the other important things is when you actually start working on something that is your own baby, right? You don't consider it as work for some time. It's like play. It's like if you have a child tomorrow, you're not going to consider that, you have to take care of the child 24/7. That's not 24 hours of work. So that is where I believe if you truly have that passion and purpose that I've really been speaking about, a lot of work doesn't even feel like work. Why do we call it a difference between work and life? It's like work-life harmony comes in because your work sort of becomes what you really want to do day in, day out. Of course, as Priyanshi was saying, you cannot forget your social life. You cannot forget your family and friends. They are an integral part of who you are and make you who you be. But of course, work is going to take center stage. Work that feels like play. Not that monotonous thing that your boss calls you or your manager calls you and you're just frustrated with everything. It doesn't feel like that. So
and
there's a big difference.
We all have gone through that ourselves. We've gone through cursing our bosses and cursing our own work-life balances. So we've gone through it, and now we've come to a consensus.
Yeah, correct. So the next question says, I guess it's he or she is a CA aspirant. While pursuing CA, should one do an articleship in the Big Four or in a mid-sized firm? Like, which is preferable?
Okay, so this is, I think, the most common question that comes in when it's with respect to CA. So I think both of us will be able to give you different perspectives because we ourselves did our articleship at different places. So I was at a Big Four for 1 year. I was at EY for 1 year. And then I moved to a mid-sized firm, an upper mid-sized firm for the other 2 years. And while Anirudh was at a mid-sized firm for 3 years. So we'll just elaborate on our experiences and guide you through it. So when I was at the Big Four, of course, at EY, because I was in the international taxation team, I did get to learn a lot from the international taxation team and from my 1 year experience at EY and at a Big Four. However, Big Fours focus a lot on specialization. So if you're into tax, you will be doing tax for the next 2 years, and you will be doing tax throughout your articleship. So probably post qualification, you will be a tax specialist, but you won't know much about the other fields within CA. However, vis-a-vis, if you really shift to a mid-sized firm, you will be able to rotate between different teams. and get the experience on working in different teams, so that you really understand that post qualification, this is exactly what I don't want to do. And trust me, that happens. Once you work in different areas, you may not realize that this is what I want to do, but you will definitely realize that this is not what you want to do as you go ahead. So you can either have like a win-win situation where you work at a big four for 1 year, so that you get the experience of actually working at a big four and get that specialization. And then you can always move to a mid-sized firm so that you can work in different departments. But Anirudh did his articleship at a mid-sized firm itself, and now he's at a management consulting firm. So I'm sure he'll be able to guide you through what a mid-sized firm really entails.
Yeah, so I think it depends on where you are in life, right? I think it depends on if you're very clear about your objectives. So some people are and some people aren't. And I think there is a set of two different answers for each of them. See, if you're very clear that you want to do a corporate job in the future, you want to climb the echelons of that corporate ladder, I think the Big Four is the best place. Why? It'll give you a great sense of what true corporate culture looks like. It'll give you a great specialization that if you're interested in, you'll be able to go ahead and, actually ace that career path, even post your qualification as a chartered accountant. However, if you're not very sure about what you want to do, you want to really explore all the different fields that are there, I would 100% recommend that you join a mid-sized firm. And why do I say that? Even in my articleship at a mid-sized firm, I got to experience very, very different things. So I was into due diligences for a point of time. I was into investment banking for some point of time. I was into private equity for a point of time. And of course, with that on the side, I did some audits and tax that all the CAs do. So that, I think that all-round experience really helped hone me into who I am today. And if anybody gets an opportunity like that, especially for someone like me who was very clear they did not want to climb that corporate ladder and get into that thing, I think that was a best experience that you can ask for. So it is an individual answer and not generic that will apply to everybody. So each person has to figure out their own goals in life and then work backwards towards what they want to do.
Okay, yeah, moving on to the last question. So this guy asks, does theoretical knowledge plays a crucial role in managing a startup, or should one just focus on purely technical and practical experience and gaining that experience?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, right? I think it's a mix. Again, it's not black or white. Most things in life that we realize are not either black or white. It's always in the gray area. It's something that with experience, all of us will understand. So it's a mix of theoretical knowledge as well as practical skills. So why do I say that? A lot of times theoretical knowledge today is looked at as a bad word, but no, it's not like that. Things that you may be studying your BCom or your chartered accountancy or any other course are really going to be relevant. Now, for just take a simple example, in chartered accountancy, we studied subjects like costing and accounting and financial management. Now, those are the sort of things that we're really using in our startup. When we think about building a financial plan for ourselves, when we think about setting goals for ourselves, when we think about, okay, how do we actually account for whatever we're investing and the returns from that, this is the sort of theoretical knowledge, so to say, that is helping us. Of course, alongside that, you need a huge amount of practical skills around selling, around marketing, around creating experiences, and Priyanshi will elaborate a lot more on that, I'm sure. So it's always a mix of both the things. It's neither this nor that, it's in the middle.
Yes. And actually your theoretical knowledge, it basically creates a base for yourself. So when you go to a firm tomorrow or you start interning at a particular place, you know that because of your theoretical knowledge, you at least have that basic knowledge to understand and to really take up at least some sort of work in that particular organization. So that's why your theoretical knowledge counts when it comes to application of your basic concepts. And like Anirudh spoke about costing. In fact, I'd also like to give an example, because I decided to pursue law post CA, and I'm also at law school today. I feel that because of the theoretical knowledge that I have of law and the way law is taught when it comes to either college or to the professional course of CA, I feel like at law school, I yet have an edge over a lot of the other law students who've even been practicing law for a couple of years, and who've really been studying law for, pursuing law within the 5-year course. So your theoretical knowledge helps to create that base, that initial base for you. but your practical experience is very, very important. So you cannot say that you don't want to intern or you don't want to work at a particular organization, especially if you're at the college level. If you think that no, it will affect my studies, it will affect my grades, it will affect my exams, no. As a student and as a fresh graduate also, in fact, you have to focus on gaining that practical experience, because like I mentioned earlier, when you start working on theoretical concepts practically, you'll realize that there is a huge amount of difference in what you're working under. And you'll also realize that the things that you don't want to do, so it'll at least give you direction with respect to, these are things that work practically, and this is not how I like it. For example, today you may feel that you like finance and you really want to get into finance, but when you start working practically, say either in banking or in finance or in investment banking, you realize that you're probably not made for it, and that you actually like marketing much more than you like finance. And the same thing happened to me, that I initially thought I wanted to do CA, but as soon as I started working practically, I realized that I'm not fond of audit and tax, but I'm very, very fond of law and litigation, which is how I decided to get that practical experience in litigation and freeze on the fact that, okay, this is what my career should be 10 years down the line. And of course, then the whole idea of the startup also came into picture. And that was a cumulative of all the practical skills that we had acquired over the years. So I would really focus on practical skills, and want to stress on the fact that internships, work experience are very, very important. I hope that answers your questions though.
Yeah, even I agree with the last point that internships and work experience do matter a lot, and they teach us a lot of things.
Yes.
Okay, the next question is for Anirudh sir. Uh, how did you get into BCG being a CA, and how did you get to manage? How did you get an edge over the MBAs in BCG?
Okay, so great question again. I think what most people do not know about is the consulting firms also run a CA recruitment program. So after each CA attempt, there is a specific recruitment program that they run to hire chartered accountants, that too at the associate level. So this is a program where you can actually send in your CVs, and they will then shortlist you. So there are a few criterias, and I'll be brief about this. We can have an offline chat with whosoever asked the question if you want a longer discussion. However, they will look at what are your academics, of course, what are your extracurriculars, and what is your work experience been like during your CA. So if you have these three things where you are different and unconventional from the regular crowd, it doesn't matter whether you have a rank, you do not have a rank, immaterial. They will take in anyone and everyone that they feel is the right fit for them. And specifically to whomsoever asked this question, one thing that I would recommend, if you can look up our mentorship program, there are 3 people today from BCG itself who are given their valuable time and hours to really help prep people like you and help you get into consulting in the future. So that is great. I would just recommend that you check that out, and you can get one-on-one personal help with people actively in BCG today who are really ready to help you out despite their insane schedules.
Yeah, I guess Aishwarya, that answers your question. And so, sir and ma'am, the students don't want to let you go, but due to some time constraints, we'll just take one last question.
Sure.
And it's for Priyanshi ma'am, that as to how did you manage the college activities while pursuing CA? Actually, it's for both sir and ma'am.
Sure. Okay. I have always been very, very active into extracurriculars, because me as a person, I just cannot work all the time, or I just cannot be a person who sits behind a screen, or doesn't interact with other people, or is just, running from class to work and back to class. That's just not me as a person. So of course, it all actually depended on time management. So I was a part of the sports council. In fact, in my last year, I was the joint president of the sports council at HR. And I was very active there because of the fact, one, that I was very, very passionate about sports. So of course, I did want to give back to sports and be a part of the council. But the second thing that really helped me was time management. So, it's very important to plan your day, to plan your week, and even to plan your month, in fact, sometimes. Because there are a lot of times, for example, even before CA final exams, I had to go for a conference, to New York before CA, into CA. And it was just a week before CA exams. But because I had planned my schedule in such a way that I had kept that whole gap of 1 week before the exams where I wouldn't be able to study at all, I finished, my portion 1 week in advance, 1 week prior to my schedule. So it really depends on time management. And I always like to say this, that you should work backwards. So you shouldn't work forward in such a way that if I wake up at 8 o'clock, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., this is how my day is aligned. No, you have to work backwards from 8 p.m. So for example, if I have this particular webinar today at 5 o'clock, I have to plan my day reverse, that, okay, before 5 o'clock, I have to finish all these activities, or before 5 p.m., I should finish all my office work. So you should really be able to prioritize and allocate effective time slots within the day to different activities. You should know what's important, when it's important, and time management is key. I just can't stress enough on the fact that managing your time is very important, especially if you're taking up a professional course like CA, because it eats you up, or even CFA, or any other professional course.
Yeah.
And in fact, even now, with respect to the startup, I feel like time management is so important, because we have our own jobs, but we have to allocate specific time to the startup as well to keep it running. So that's about it with managing different activities.
And I'll just add to that. I think there's a 5-20 rule that I really love, right? No, what does that say? So Warren Buffett says, write down the 20 things that you're most passionate about on a piece of paper. After that, just select the top 5 that you want. Focus your energies only and only on those top 5. Now today, we think that we have 20 passions, we have to run everywhere. Don't do that. Focus on those top 5. Manage your time perfectly. Schedule yourself, like Priyanshi was saying. You will be able to take up all of them in the best possible manner that you can. And which is how we also always used to manage our college activities, CA, class, work, etc. We focused only on those core 5 things that we truly were passionate about and wanted to do, and put all our energies into it instead of spreading them across 20 different things. So that is another thing. Saurav, I have a question on personal chat if we have time for the last one. I'm not sure.
Yeah, let's take it.
Yeah. So there is a question on goal alignment between partners, and how do partners work great with each other, right? And I think it's a very important question. So what Priyanshi and I have always followed is a very honest and open communication policy with each other. Whatever we feel, whenever we feel it, we are very open, whether it's, like praising the other person or berating the other person. We're as, efficient or as critical or as praiseworthy of each other as we can be, just to make sure that we ourselves do not let anything come between this. And of course, before starting, we have very clear goal alignment, that these are the 3 sets of things that we wish to do, and this is how the plan is to where we will get. So both of us know that these are the particular set of activities that we want to execute basis our skill set. So we have alignment. And of course, after the event has taken place, we recalibrate and see where did we go right, where did we go wrong, what are the action points for improvement. I've said this in a very consultant way, when Priyanshi can probably elaborate more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think these are the set of things that really helped us work well together.
And I think the only thing is, of course, one is with respect to synergy, is that you cannot have 2 people having the same synergies. Then you'll know that you'll always have to look for a 3rd or 4th person who yet has those other skills that you were really looking for. So you have to see, with your partner, what your synergies are and try to match them. And of course, division of work as well. So, before you start off itself, you chalk out a plan in such a way that this is what I will supervise and this is what my partner will supervise. And then, we just ensure that the work is done within time and is completely overlooked. So I think all in all, these are just some basic points with respect to partner alignment. But I think the key is you should have a good rapport with the person you're starting off with, because you cannot start off with a stranger. It's just not possible. That person may be your friend, maybe a person, maybe an acquaintance, but you should have a good rapport with that person before you start things off itself. Otherwise, you will face a lot of issues as you go ahead in the startup if your goals don't match.
Yeah, correct. Okay, with this, I just request everyone to please turn on their camera so that we can have a group photo. After that, Parth, you can take over.
Sure. And actually, sorry, Saurav, there's just one thing I would like to add here, which is that, if anyone has all these career-related queries, or if you really want to know how to get into different firms, how to get into different firms for your articleship, post-qualification, how to get into management consulting firms, then you can definitely enroll for our programs on Beyond the Degree. They're completely free. We're going to have trainings, master classes, as well as mentorship programs. In fact, I just see someone put a question to me asking me what Beyond the Degree is about. So essentially, Beyond the Degree is just a one-stop platform where we run corporate trainings, webinars, mentorship sessions. We have master classes. We really want to educate and help students, navigate their way through different careers, and chalk out career maps for students, help them prepare for interviews and for the future. So do check out our page on Instagram or on LinkedIn. I put the links in the chat box. You can check it out. You can write to us, and you can really approach us for any sort of help that you may need.
Yeah, that would be really great. Okay, Parth.
Okay, so I would like to thank Ms. Priyanshi and Mr. Anirudh for taking out their precious time and sharing such valuable insights and strategies that will help us progress in our entrepreneurial journey. I would also like to thank Pooja ma'am, Naveen sir, Amit sir, and also the students for taking out their precious time to attend this session. We hope our alumni journey inspired you, and all the valuable information will help you overcome your entrepreneurial roadblocks and achieve success. Request all the students to fill the feedback form that has been put up in the chat box. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks a lot for joining in.
And
We-
thank you for having us too.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot.
it was a great session.
It's good to be back to college after
Yeah.
really long. Yeah.
Okay, I request everyone to please fill in the feedback form, and the feedback form will be shared on the groups as well. And yeah, thanks a lot for joining in. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Shubham. Are you there?
Yeah, Saurav.
Yeah, we can end the meeting now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll end the meeting for all.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.